Hey! Are you just getting into fishing and you don't know what colors to pick? You go into the store and you're like, what are all these colors about? What lures are you supposed to throw? I'm going to oversimplify it. If you've never really gone bass fishing or just getting back into it and you only have like a rod, so you have a medium power rod, spinning rod probably if you're going to get back into it, I'm going to show you the one lure and the hook that you need. I'm going to show you how to rig it up, show you how to tie the hook onto your line, and really I'm going to oversimplify this in this video. Hopefully this answers some questions. The first thing I'm going to assume, because this is how it was for me, most likely you don't have a boat and you're only fishing from shore. No problem. That's why I picked the hook I'm going to talk about. And the hook is going to be an extra wide gap hook. And they make different sizes. They make little ones, they make big ones. The one that I've found after fishing for I'm not a seasoned angler. Let's see if I was seasoned, how would I be seasoned if I was an angler? It would probably be just salt, pepper, maybe a little garlic. At this far, and I'm not even cooked or even at room temperature. What I found is if you go to 1/0, it's very finesse. If you catch something big, you might bend out on it. The gauge of the wire of the hook is a little thin, but if you're going really finesse, that might be the call, like if you're throwing a really small worm. What I would throw is a 3/0 extra wide gap hook. Not much to it. Hook's right there, bend, eyelet. I'll show you how to tie this on, but this hook, the way I rig it, weedless, the hook is buried inside the plastics. When you fish it from shore, because there's probably weeds where you're going to be, I found the least frustrating way from shore as a novice or new angler is to go with an extra wide gap hook, rigged weedless on whatever soft plastic you want, but I'm going to show you the one that is probably the most fished, the most successful lure on the market, and that's why there is a ton of different types. So let's take a look at the soft plastic I'm talking about. All right. So soft plastic you're going to use, or I would suggest that, it's one of the number one. If you asked every fisherman, they've probably caught fish on a worm or a stick bait or a soft plastic worm, right? So this is just basically a rubber tube that tapers. There's a couple ridges. There's like a middle part. There is a hook keeper. This rigged on this hook, weedless, just tied to your line. Your fluorocarbon or your monofilament, and you just toss that out and it will come down. Give it a tap. You can drag it. It's really not much. Typically it gets hit pretty quick. You just let it, you'll feel on the line or something will just grab it. You can work it different ways. You can give it a couple taps and the thing will zip like this. You want to keep your tip down if you're doing that so it stays underwater. And if you have slack line instead of having your line really tight and you tap it, what we'll do is the line will give and this will shoot left and right erratically, kind of like a fleeing fish. But typically a worm doesn't move very much. There's the worms. I think the reasoning behind this is because a worm's defense mechanism against a fish is non-existent. It's a soft piece of protein and the bass see it and like, what's the worm going to do to the fish? Just like start biting it? No, it's not going to. It's going to start tail whipping? No, it's just going to float and, oh no, I'm a worm. And that's why fish will typically hit worms frequently. There's no defense mechanism there. The same thing goes for craws, but bang for buck, you're bang for your dollar. Soft plastic worms, you can go get like a 5-pack and a 5-pack of extra wide gap hooks, maybe $10. I would say if it's 15, I'd be surprised for 5 hooks and 5 worms. With tax, 13 maybe. Anyway, so then you have your hooks and your worm. Now you're gonna need your line. So the line I'd probably use would be on a medium rod, on a medium spinning rod, I'd say 10 to 12 pound line. At 10 at the minimum. 12 might be a little easier. That way you don't snap off as much. The only reason you want a smaller diameter line is for visibility. If you have like very clear water, you might want to stay at 10 pound line. I do fish with 10 pound like leader on a lot of my rigs. I find 12 pound a little bit thick and it kind of floats too much. So 10 pounds fine. I wouldn't go down to 8 if you're fishing like this because you might snap off when you set the hook. You need that medium rod to be able to get the penetration of the hook into the fish's mouth. But I guess, let's talk about color too. So over the years, I've tried a lot of different colors, pink, orange, was it the creamsicle color in Yum? They have white, black, all kinds of different flake, green, black and blue, green pumpkin, yellow, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of yellow worms. If you can think of the color, it exists, chartreuse. And I always want, what is, now I don't know if it's a New England thing or the Northeast where it's where more finesse fishermen, like we have to do it a lot more. So it's a little bit financier, right? I don't know if that's a word. That's not the thing. I don't know if it's because we have to, because sometimes it's very pressured or not, or it's the fish are finicky. But clear water, I always think, okay, so the white worm is very visible to you, right? That's great. The fish hits it, you know it's gone. Maybe in murky water. Dark color, if it's very sunny out, that's going to make a dark profile. Anything's going to make a dark profile, right? They're not going to see that color. All they're going to see is a silhouette, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe overcast or dark, it doesn't. So I've been running through these things in my head. Fishing, does this make a difference? Blue, you know, oh, is this pink worm going to work? They do. But I always think the more subtle or natural the color, right? So how do I figure out the natural color of what the fish are eating? You can look at bugs. I like to throw something that's the color of the animals that are in the body of water. So I'm thinking about these different fish right here. They're just going to be popping up. Largemouth bass, the smallmouth bass. Just started looking at the colors of these fish. You know, chain pickerel, the black crappie, the sunfish. What else is up there? Yellow perch on there. Just generally started looking at the different colors of the fish in my area. And very common, there's a lot of green. So I thought in my head, this is my theory, that the most natural color is something green, like the fish, because fish eat little fish and they like worms. It's the same color, so they must be able to see green, right? Or maybe they can't at all, and that's why it's so subtle. If I was going to pick one color to go out with, you can only pick one pack. It would be a green pumpkin with like a black flake, or this one is black and red flake. So I think that this, when it hits the water, the light hits the red flakes and it reflects off and gives something the fish to key in on. But otherwise, this is a pretty unsuspecting worm, just wagging through the water, or just fluttering, really, just in the water's just making it move a little bit, and fish just say, hey, that's nice, and they come up and pick it up. You're gonna get a little small fish. If you throw it in the right spot, you can find a big fish. So that's why the green pumpkin with a red flake is probably one of my favorites. It just seems natural. I feel like the fish are less skeptical to hit something that is natural color like them in their body of water, and it's going to be less suspecting. There's like a bright red. I mean, how many bright red worms do you see swimming around in the water, right? Or a snake, it's pretty dark green. I think about lures in that way. So if I want to match the hatch, I'll put that word down. So if I want to match the hatch, that's what I go for, is more natural. So like, I feel like the fish will hit a more natural looking lure. That's not to say they won't hit something crazy. I mean, I've thrown the little spurl rat that's like purple and blue and pink, and that thing gets worked. Maybe the top color is for the fisherman and the bottom's for the fish. Something to pay attention to. Let's tie this thing on, I guess. All right, so what we got here, we have our extra wide gap hook, right? And we have our line. So what I'm going to show you is how to tie the polymer knot. This is the easiest knot I learned when I started, and it changed the way I tie knot. This knot, it's very easy. You just got to you don't want to cinch down on it too fast, because it's plastic. Your line's plastic unless you're using straight braid. If you heat up plastic, it compromises the integrity of the plastic and it snaps. So you want to lube your line and stuff like that when you're going to cinch down your knot. So first, what I'm doing here is I'm going to send the line through the eyelet first. And now I'm going to take the line and send it back through. The main line's coming off from the right side of the screen. So that's going to the rod and everything else. And then on the left, obviously, is the hook, and the line's coming through, loop back through, and then it's coming back towards the main line. What I'm going to do is I am going to make is this overhand knot, underhand knot? You basically go over the line and then back through, but I'm taking the loop and I'm doing that. So I take the loop, I go over my line, I come back through, and through that hole I've created, slide that loop through the hole, and now I take the hook and I slip it through that hole that I've just created on the other side. And now I have this weird nest of line. I'm going to slowly pull it down just so it's closer to the hook, not quickly at all. And once it gets closer, I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in my mouth and lube it up a spit, and then I'm gonna slowly pull it tight, just cinching it down. You don't want to go fast, because that's gonna mess up the integrity. And what's the problem with the integrity of the plastic is you want that knot to hold. So if you cinch it down and it's weaker, it increases the chance that that fish is going to snap that hook off on your line, and then you'll be like, that was big. Your line can also snap from fish teeth, or the line rubs on a branch, cast over a tree, you reel it back, it could mess up the line. So you check your line frequently, more frequently than you think you should. So, oh wait, we've cinched it down, that's the polymer knot right there. All right, so now we're going to put that worm on that hook, right? I'm not going to do it on, no, yeah, I am going to do it on here. So what you want to do is you want to go on the top. So if you look at the worm on the right side of the screen, you can see the head of the worm. On the left side of the screen, you can see the worm's tail. And then somewhere in the center, there is the hook keeper right there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the top of the head of it. We're gonna try to find the center with this extra wide gap hook. And it doesn't matter so much where the hook keeper is at this point. It does when you send the hook through. And I'll show you what I mean. So you're gonna find the center of that worm, and you're gonna go down just to where that extra wide gap hook bend is. And now, this is where it's important. You want to be directly opposite of that hook keeper because the hook's going to stay in that. So now you send it through, you bring it down, right? And just to where that other bend is, you spin the worm around and pop it out. So now we got to send it through. So what you do here is, see how the worm's hiding the line and everything else? Now you got to grab with your thumb and your forefinger, pinch, and then you're going to put it through, but you want it to go in the center of the worm on the other side, so it's totally completely lined up. And that basically makes your extra wide gap hook weedless. And then a fish comes up and bites down on the plastic, exposes the hook, and you set the hook, and that's how you get your fish. That is the most successful lure on the market that almost it's got to be every fisherman has caught fish on these soft plastic worms. My favorite color on why you should, if you're brand new, 5-pack of hooks, green pumpkin with red flake, medium rod, go and chuck it around a pond, throw it towards like grass, toss to lily pads, anywhere there's grass, throw it on the edge of that, let it sink down, hits the bottom, give it a little tap. If you feel like it's pressure but it's not pulling on it, give it a little pop. That might set it free. It might be on the other side of a log or a rock. You don't want to jam home every time. You'll know. The fish will come up and bite it and it tap. It will feel like a pull. It feels like someone's pulling on it. Sometimes it'll be subtle and you'll just see your line moving. Set the hook. I hope this video helped everyone who's brand new getting into it, make it a little easier where you're not going to get confused. You can go out and catch fish on two very simple things, your rod and your line. Might want to bring pliers just in case. And you can just toss that stuff in there and it's weedless. You don't have to worry about it. That's all you need. You don't need to buy anything else. You throw worms for a while. Usually when I show people how to actually use the worm, that's all they want to throw. It's really successful. So getting back into it, just starting, hooks, extra wide gap hooks, soft plastic, Yum Dinger. I like those because they have the hook keeper. Your medium fishing rod and 10-pound fluorocarbon or monofilament, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching this week. You can do all the YouTube stuff if you want. Leave a comment, subscribe, comment, leave a comment, subscribe, like, all that stuff. Hope you guys have a good weekend, night, evening, day, morning, whatever the heck time it is. Catch you next time.